On June 4th, 2025, it was raining. I mean, look at this. It was downpouring here at the depot. But I bet you're wondering, Fallen Flag fan, why are you at the depot if it's raining so badly and you're in the middle of a storm? Well, you see, there's a train coming, obviously. But not just any train. NS 269 with NS 8101, the Central of Georgia Heritage Unit, trailing second. Now, I bet you're thinking, Fallen Flag fan, why is this any rarer than a standard NS Heritage Unit? And my answer to that is, it's not. However, 8101 and I have a bit of a history, which I realize I haven't actually talked about in any videos before, so here we go. In October of 2023, I was getting a haircut, and I was planning to go to the depot later, when this intermodal cleared while I was getting a haircut, and I got out just in time to see the tail end. 8101 was trailing. I was very mad. This was actually my first time seeing a Norfolk Southern Heritage Unit. And that convinced me to make 8101 the villain in my upcoming Trains music video series thingy, the 8101 Saga, which I'm sure you've seen. Then 8101 showed up in Phoenix, Arizona. You can't see it on this map, but it did eventually reach Phoenix. I used to live there, so it literally showed up at my old house, which is in Arizona, which is ridiculous. And then, sometime in early 2024, I was tracking it on the Elkhart cam, but I had never used the Elkhart cam before, and the train was actually on 11V, which doesn't go to Chicago. It terminates somewhere in Ohio, I think. So I didn't get to see it that day either, and I spent all day staring at the Elkhart cam and doing nothing else. Ugh. There's also a lot more times that it got transferred off, sent on other lines, terminated somewhere, but I don't have enough time to talk about all of those. This day, it was on 269, which in my previous rail fanning experience sucks to track because more than often it just stops for hours and hours and hours in Sandusky and doesn't leave until nightfall. However, this day, it actually did, and I was ecstatic for it. As soon as 8101 passed Elkhart, we headed to the depot, but before we could fully pull in, an NS local cleared, B16, with a single C6M for power, so nothing interesting there. Once we eventually got up onto the depot, which was helpfully sheltering us from the rain because, oh boy, it was pouring at this point, we didn't have to wait long for our first train, which was an eastbound, Norfolk Southern 10R, I think, with 2 BNSF GEVOs for power. Almost immediately after 10R cleared, the signal turned green for a westbound, and that westbound happened to be another BNSF transfer train, Norfolk Southern 267, which is a transfer intermodal and is heading to BNSF Cicero Yard. This day, it was, as usual, led by a duo of BNSF engines, but the leading one was an ace. It's very rare to see BNSF aces off coal trains, even on BNSF trackage, so seeing one leading a mainline intermodal on Norfolk Southern was certainly an event. And in addition to that video, I also got a photo as the train was approaching, which, as you can see, looks amazing. I especially like the headlights illuminating the raindrops as the train clears. Oh, this is probably the best photo I've ever taken. It looks beautiful. It didn't take long for the signal to turn orange and eventually green for another westbound. However, I knew this wasn't going to be 269 with the 8101. That was because I saw Norfolk Southern 29P, another westbound intermodal, clearing Elkhart right before the 269. So I knew this would be the last westbound that would have to clear before 269. Now the main line was clear for westbounds, meaning 269 was on its way shortly. However, before it could get here, Amtrak 41, the Floridian, showed up, slightly delayed, and I did get a horn salute from the engineer. Those are rare on this line since it's a quiet zone. Also, nice Phase 5 P42 DC leader. Now, the signals had to turn green for 8101, right? Right? It was another hour wait before the next train, as you can clearly see by the fact we're getting deeper and deeper into the blue hour. And it wasn't even 8101, it was a random eastbound intermodal with two stupid C6Ms. Then we looked back at the signals and they were still all red. 8101 had passed Elkhart an hour and a half ago and we had already been out rail fanning for 2 hours. We were getting really tired and apparently so was the sun because, as you can tell, it was getting dark. We sat there for even longer, and just as I was about to bail and go home, the signal turned green. I looked down the tracks and saw the glare of a westbound headlight approaching. By now, though, it was way too dark to get a decent shot, so we scrambled to the crossing, where there's better lighting. And just as we were driving in, the gates went down. This was it. I was finally going to see 8101... Yep. It was a random eastbound with two GEVOs. What about the green signal? What about the headlight glare? I was thrown into a momentary panic as I thought we were going to get blocked by this train. However, the train did eventually clear and 8101 was still nowhere in sight. So we pulled into the nearby parking lot to continue the wait. We waited for another 30 minutes and the headlight glare did not move. By now, we came to the realization that 269 had to be stopped somewhere or we would have seen it by now. So we decided to throw in the towel. However, we still had one more spot to visit before we could go home, Wendy's, to get my dad food because he hadn't eaten dinner yet. And as we were pulling through the last part of the drive-thru, we saw the gates go down in the distance. And to my complete horror, 269 slowly crawled by with 8101 trailing. Yeah, remember that headlight glare? Yeah, that was 269 stopped in LaPorte Siding. It had been sitting there for over an hour, and we could have just driven down there to see it before it got dark. Yeah. 8101 has managed to scam me for, what is this, the 12th time now? I'm not even surprised anymore. The student's an evil genius. I've never had this happen with any other trains. I'm honestly convinced 8101 has a mind of his own, and he's out to get me. Oh, crap. Gotta run. Bye. See you in the next video.